We usually start by having kind of an in-depth meeting with the client, really just to make sure we understand their goals and vision for the project. Kind of like what misconceptions they might be coming against as a company. So we just recently did a project with a city, and there's certain misconceptions about the area and those kinds of things that they wanted to try to help answer, because it's not that way like it used to be, things like that. So really just kind of digging into who they are and what are the key things make up who they are, and then what things maybe are they trying to work against, whether it's misconceptions or those kinds of things. So understanding that, their goals, that kind of thing is really, really important to then taking that information. And kind of my first step is usually just to kind of like brain dump. So get as much information as I can from the client, put it all down on a document, and then do a bunch of searching of kind of like parallel stuff. So if it's promo for a trucking company, I'll go and look at other stuff that I can find for a trucking company. And then I'll look at, logistics companies, and I'll look at trucking or like truck manufacturer videos, and like kind of look at a bunch of stuff all in that area. And then I'll also usually look at like examples of stuff that their target audience would be watching or be associating themselves with. So whether it's like brands, those kinds of things, and see what those people are doing to kind of like terms of style and feel and those kinds of things. And then I kind of just try to nail down kind of a vibe, just kind of a direction and a style that we want to do. And then I'll usually put together, then once we kind of figure out a rough idea and concept of kind of the flow of the piece, in terms of, usually I break it up in two pieces. We have the visual flow and the content flow. So in terms of the content flow, the content of the interviews, what they're going to be talking about and kind of how that lays out, and then a visual flow of what visuals would go along kind of in parallel and to complement what's being talked about in the interviews. So then once I have that, and I have kind of the mood boards and some example videos, I put that into kind of a pitch deck type thing. And then we have another meeting with the client to kind of go through that and make sure that we're on the same page with, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking would work for your audience. This is how I think we could approach, the subjects of things that you want to talk about. And then once we have that approved with them, we make any tweaks necessary. Then the next step is just kind of really flush that part out. So usually the next step for me is then finding a piece of music, if I can, that really kind of encapsulates the style, or a specific reference video that I really want to kind of copy the pacing and style of. And then I just work from my content outline, kind of flushing out questions and like ideas and like subjects that we're going to cover. And then with the visual outline, if it's a little bit like mid-range piece, then I'll probably just kind of write a shot list based on kind of what I want to cover. Starting in the big picture, it's so easy to get bogged down in the details of like, I don't know how to connect these pieces, but the best place if you get stuck is just to put down what you do know. So kind of put down those highlights. And I usually draw it out in kind of like a waveform almost diagram for like the different rises and falls of kind of how the piece flows, and then for the visual and the content outlines. So once I have those, then I kind of assemble those into documents. And then that's kind of in a nutshell, that's kind of what I do with the pre-production for like the creative and the visual. And then once we have that information, then Hannah can be working on the producing end, putting together, talking to people, whether it's lining up interviewees, figuring out crew, figuring out what locations, what things we're going to need to kind of pull off. And yeah, so that's kind of basically, once we have all that stuff put together, then we obviously run all that by the client again, kind of a final meeting to make sure that all those details are nailed down. And yeah, and then we just go into shooting. So that's kind of oversimplified. Some areas more detailed than others, but that's kind of what we do for our pre-production process.